happy shiny puppy. This is Melody Fletcher, author of Deliberate Receiving. Finally, the universe makes some freaking sense. And this is day 27 of my 30-day video challenge. Oh my God, you guys get excited? We're almost there. Okay, so today is one of those posts. I got one of those questions, one of the rabbit hole questions. And I think it was from Awesome Angela, who was asking me about something called the Mandela effect, which I had to look up. I didn't know what that was, and so I looked it up and did a little bit of research because it got my attention, and my intuition was like, this is something that's gonna be fun for you. And so it turns out the Mandela effect is a phenomenon where a whole bunch of people, like large groups of people, will remember something having happened in history that then it turns out didn't happen. Like there's not proof of it anymore. And so there's all kinds of things that are being ascribed to the Mandela effect. You can go, BuzzFeed did an article on it. So apparently like it's a thing, I never heard of it. And the reason why they call it Mandela effect is because it's named after Nelson Mandela, and everybody not everybody, but a lot of people remembered him dying in the 90s. And then it turns out, no, he didn't. But they totally remember that. They remember Billy Graham's funeral. He's a very right-wing fundamentalist preacher here in the United States. And a lot of people remember his funeral, really remember it being attended by presidents and that sort of thing. And then it turns out, nope, he's still alive. A lot of people remember Sinbad. He's a comedian, again, in the United States, who, having done a movie where he plays a genie in the 90s, and then that didn't. I remember that one. I remember that. Then there are certain things that are being ascribed to it, where misheard lyrics, where the brain is filling in gaps, those kinds of things. So it isn't always the same phenomenon, but there is something going on here, and so I find this really exciting because I think it's another one of those things where something has come into awareness that wasn't there before. So that when you as an individual, when you shift from one reality into another, that reality has a different past than the one that you had before. So it's entirely possible for something that happened to you in one sort of reality, and it happened to you 20 years ago or whatever, that as you shift into another reality, that no longer happened to you. But maybe somebody that you're still matching up in that reality is still remembering the old reality, and they remember absolutely that happening. And you might have experienced this. For example, you might remember something happening in your childhood and you want to argue with your brother or your sister, and they're like, no, that never happened. What are you talking about? And you have an absolute memory of it. These things can be ascribed to, childhood memories and false memories and that sort of thing. I had something happen to me as an adult. Yeah, so this wasn't like, I might be misremembering from when I was 3 years old. No, this was as an adult. I had a conversation with someone. I was living in San Francisco at the time. I think I was like 19 years old. I was going to university. And I had a conversation with a man who ran a store that I went into, and I would go in there fairly often. And like a week later, I went back in, referred to that conversation, and he had no idea what I was talking about. And this was not a conversation that was, light. I'll tell you guys what it is. In that conversation, he's telling me all about how he's gay and his boyfriend and blah, 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 and all his life. And then I go back in, and this was not, he wasn't like in the closet, none of that. Then like a week later, I go back in, and we're talking about my then boyfriend and yada yada, and I make some kind of I don't remember what I said, I don't remember word for word, but I swear to you, the guy goes, what are you talking about? I'm married, I have children, I'm not gay. And I'm like, no, you don't, at first I thought, well, are you like trying to cover this up now? Like, we're in San Francisco, dude, like you don't need to be. And he goes, no, I have no problem with that, I'm just not gay. he didn't have a twin brother. It was two separate realities. Really kind of messed with my head for a little while because I thought, how? I didn't dream it. I know it happened. It didn't happen years and years and years ago. This was like a week later. Shifted into a different reality where that guy was not gay. And so, you know, and I've had things like that happen where now that I understand what's happening, it's actually fun to see. When you don't know what's happening, it's kind of creepy. Yeah. Now that same thing can happen on a mass scale where a whole bunch of people remember one reality and then a whole other group of people will be like, no, that's not the history. That's not what happened. You know, and they're not denying it. They're just like, that's not what happened. And then you go and you search on the internet and you're like, oh my God, there is no evidence of this happening. Why are we all remembering this? Yeah, or why are so many of us remembering it? Because, well, so many of us were in one reality and shifted into another. And this doesn't mean that if you don't remember Mandela's death or Billy Graham's death or Sinbad's movie or any of these kinds of things that you're, you know, not in the aware reality. It just means that the people who shifted into from one reality to another sort of collectively, and you're shifting realities all the time, you know, remember that while other people don't. But the fact that people are remembering these things, the fact that they're like, wait a minute, that happened. No, it didn't, but I swear it did, and we can all talk about it, is a great sign of increased awareness. Because when there is no awareness, then you shift realities and there is no sign at all that you have shifted realities. You don't remember the other reality. They're not bleeding into each other the way that they are now. So now the veil is getting thinner and we're starting to kind of have that crossover effect, that feeling of being in one and the other a little bit. And it's amazing. So for me, this is one of those really exciting topics where, can you tell? Where, you know, it's another one of those signs of, you know, well, I like to say the veil is getting thinner, meaning the veil between realities. Also the veil between physical and non-physical, which is just different realities, different perspectives. Yeah. And we're starting to we're starting to see the matrix. Okay. So, right. So what do you guys think? Oh gosh, I forgot to prepare a question for you today. I got so excited about the topic. All right, well, so what experience have you had where you saw the matrix? Where you get to see sort of, you know, realities bleeding into each other. Oh, we're going down the rabbit hole a little bit today. I promise to do more, but this is... I could talk about this stuff for hours, but I will let you go because we're doing another one tomorrow. All right, so I will see you tomorrow. And until then, thank you for bringing your light to the world. This is so much fun. Bye.